now we'll move to mic number 1, please. Numéro 1.
Bonjour.
Dominique Lenoir, software professional. I'm here as a consumer. As we were saying, as was said earlier, copyright is at the intersection between culture and commercial interests. What we see more and more is that some copyright protects cultural content where there isn't any commercial interest necessarily. I think of protection on DVDs that was mentioned before, where if I want my Swedish friends to see Le Cœur a ses raisons, it's impossible. It's illegal for them, and vice versa. There's that. Restrictions to distribution, even without DVD, when I want to see, let's say, I might want to watch Bell Quebec or content that's prohibited. So the Act should allow, where there's no commercial interest or when commercial interest doesn't allow for the transaction, should allow to legally circumvent and also the government should set up a system to compensate for authors' losses, the people who are involved in creation. There's also the digital rights management. There were many incidents lately. I think Sony had put in a program that people couldn't even detect. And with C61, it would have been forbidden to go see what that program was doing. It allowed big companies or even smaller corporations to go play within our property, potentially putting in viruses or pirate software. So the next act has to allow for the investigation of these devices and force the visibility of these devices and not allow for technology to come before the law. Microphone 2 and Nicole.
My name is Daniel Drapeau. I'm the president of the Anti-Counterfeiting Committee at the Intellectual Property Institute of Canada. Now, that's the title that got me in here today. What I do on a day-to-day basis is that I'm counsel at Smart & Bigger, which is an IP law firm which specializes in the questions that we're discussing today. I certainly don't envy you today because you've got quite a few concepts that you have to grapple with and quite a few positions that are taken that are not necessarily easily reconcilable. So my message to you is going to be very simple. It has 3 letters, and it's ISP. The work that I do is essentially I'm the hired gun when people who have rights want to go after people who steal or copy their rights. The work that I do is very practical. It's on a day-to-day basis, and I'm confronted with the difficulties of having to go after somebody who hides behind somebody else. Copyright Act doesn't help me very much. And the 3 recommendations that I have for you is, first of all, responsibilize the internet service provider. Secondly, make him open up his books so we can figure out who he's hiding or who's trying to hide behind him. And thirdly, a system of notice and takedowns like we have in a number of other countries. That's about it. And given that I haven't quite exhausted my allotted 3 minutes, which I'm sure you'll be very grateful for, I'd like to pass on another message to you. And if you could tell your colleague, Mr. Clement, to hold similar town halls on trademarks, I would be very much happy to contribute to it. Thank you so much.
Merci beaucoup, Maître Drapeau.
Thank you very much, Mr. Drapeau. Nicole?
In Toronto. I work in the music industry and work closely with many Canadian artists who have many different opinions. The one consistent view is that they all seem to have is that people who create should have the choice as to whether or not they want to monetize their creations. Choice is something that should lie in the hands of the creators and the partners they choose to do business with. Life in Canada is based on choice. Without choice, we would be told who our leaders are. I think we all know that would not be a wise choice.
Merci beaucoup. Maintenant, le micro numéro 3.
Microphone 3.
Hello, my name is Tracy Ariel, and I'm an independent writer. I've been writing since 1993, and the last time I was in a room like this was 1995, just after during the WIPO consultations, and the amendments that were done in 1997 took a revenue stream right out of my business. So I'm actually very conscious of what you're doing here, and so my first request is, whatever you do, please give people like me, I guess I'm a dinosaur, a chance to actually recover from any changes you make. So that's my first request. If you change some sort of so-called dinosaur model, at least give me a chance to actually upgrade my business practices so that I don't just lose a revenue stream as soon as the law is passed. The second comment that I have is the Copyright Act since 1995 has been particularly damaging to me, primarily because corporations are now coming after me with contracts that make it impossible for me to do very much. They've decided that distributing work via the internet is cheap, and so they should add that on to whatever other service I'm providing for them. So as an independent writer, what I actually need the Copyright Act to do is, instead of balancing between users and copyright holders, I need you to divide up copyright holders into creators and publishers, distributors, whatever you want to call those other people, so that I can have more rights than they do, so I can actually negotiate with them. Because they used to be happy with the terms that were in the Copyright Act. That's why we never had contracts. They brought contracts out because they decided the Copyright Act didn't give them the rights they needed, and so they used contracts to try and take our rights away. And when people didn't have contracts, they decided to take them away retroactively. One example of this is the length of time of copyright. As an individual, I need my whole lifetime to make copyright work, because my best work I may actually write it the day before I die, in which case I hope my children have the opportunity to benefit from that. But a commercial endeavor doesn't last more than 20 years. So they don't need more than 20 years. So give me the rights that I have, 100 years plus 50 years, and give them 20 years, and make it impossible for them to take more. Thank you.